Three stocks in which I'm going to be buying over the next couple of weeks. Now, this is not financial advice. This is all just my own personal opinion, and I already hold small amounts of each of these stocks just to track them currently, but I will potentially be buying more as time goes along. Without wasting time, let's get straight into this. Now, VIR Biotechnology is the first stock of this list here. We can see price targets of a potential upside of 418% according to the top analyst, and a minimum upside of 140%. Now, I know that's tickled your little hairs down below and it's got your interest. So who are they and what do they actually do? Well, this company is obviously a biotech company, and they are currently developing treatments for hepatitis delta, solid tumours, and HIV. Now, obviously, we can see here the hepatitis delta is very close to becoming authorised. It's currently in phase 3, and obviously HIV, I'm not actually sure. I'm not a scientist within this field, so I'm not massively sure. Do not quote me on anything, but a HIV cure would be absolutely huge for the globe. It will be something which will transform medication going forward. So if they do manage to get this through the phases and authorized, then that would be absolutely amazing. So why am I actually watching this company? Well, they currently have a price to earnings ratio of minus 1.5. So they're relatively, well, they're obviously not in profit, which is something which is harming them. But currently looking on these moving averages, which is what I look for. These are all exponential moving averages. We've got the 50 in red, the 100 in yellow, the 150 in green, and the 200 in dark blue. So what do I look for here and why? So we're currently seeing price starting to close above these EMAs. It's just bouncing between the 150 currently and the 200. As soon as this closes consistently for a few days above the 200-day EMA, and once this red line here crosses above the yellow line and continues to stay above, that essentially is a bullish crossover, a moving average convergence and divergence, but on a longer scale, and it shows potential forming of long-term momentum. So that's what I'm looking for. And obviously when you're seeing price targets all in the green and with such amounts, then this stock could absolutely pop off from here. Now, obviously, if we look at where this stock currently is, it's bouncing between its 20-day SMA and the top end of the Bollinger Band. Now, what is a Bollinger Band? If you're not familiar, well, this is essentially a dynamic RSI, relative strength index. So it says, well, basic terms, how overbought and oversold a stock is. I view this blue line here, the 20-day simple moving average, as almost a trampoline. You either fall straight through it and continue to fall, or you bounce around it and bounce back up. When we see a stock bounce off of it and come back up consistently, that's what I like to see. I like to buy it once it bounces on that 20-day SMA. So currently, VIR Biotech looks absolutely amazing for a potential momentum buy going into the remainder of 2025 and maybe beyond. Obviously, it's hard to say where the market is currently, and we will be getting onto where the market really is later on in the video, but we'll get to that. So stock number 2 is ATAI. Now, this is the stock in which I've got the most amount of money in currently because it has been in a consistent uptrend, and furthermore it's already well and truly into a long position according to the EMAs here. This is essentially what we're looking for in the other stock. However, we're not going to see them quite as tight as we did here. This is a more so ideal situation than you would see in VIR because these are relatively spread out, so it would be quite difficult for this to really pump straight away. So that's why that's a bit more of a risky play, and obviously I'm not saying that you should be buying any of these. This is just speculation, but this has just pumped and pumped and pumped, and it only caught my interest, well, it caught my attention around about a week ago, and since then it's jumped all the way up to the high end of its Bollinger Band here, actually going overbought and then falling back down to the 20-day SMA where I bought some more. And I'm hoping, obviously it's not to say it's going to happen, but historically, if you look back at what has happened within the stock, it should climb back up and the uptrend should continue. So who are ATAI? So ATAI is essentially a mental health company which is also in the clinical stage, engages in developing various therapeutic candidates that focus on various mental health disorders. Obviously, it's very similar to VIR Biotechnology, so you are kind of playing within that same sector, obviously with it also being at clinical stage. So there is obviously speculation here as to where this stock can go. If we look, it's not in profit. The earnings per share is currently minus $0.69. So obviously there's nothing to go off on a trailing and forward basis. But if we do, if I can find it, have a look at their price targets. This is again what spiked my interest. I like to see a stock that's climbing and has still got more room to run according to the analysts. So the analysts predict an upside of a potential 177% on the high side, and on the low side is still a plus 41% upside. Obviously, the main thing to note with these companies is they are going to be so volatile in terms of what actually happens, because if they have a failed trial, it's going to massively affect the price. But if they have a positive trial, it's going to do wonders for the price. So, and that's not something as an investor that you can control. So there is inherent risk with these stocks. This company is expected to grow at 14.7% over the next year, which is just above the S&P as a whole. This company is headquartered in Berlin, Germany, and it's only got 54 employees. So obviously it's not a massive company to base much off. I've clicked the complete wrong thing here, but it's something in which could be massive going forward. It's really hard to say. I just really enjoy looking at this chart. I like the momentum that it's got behind it currently. It's something which I really do look for when looking into a stock. I am a bit worried about the distance between the 50-day EMA and the price currently. There is room for a bit of a correction there. But realistically, only time will tell where ATAI will head. Now, a bit more of a familiar name, Amazon. Now, obviously, previously we saw Amazon AWS servers shut down in America, and essentially half the internet shut down for them. So, or you guys, if you are in America watching this, so it kind of makes you realize the monopoly in which AWS has on all of this cloud computing, which is going on within America currently. So looking at the price targets, because they won't load on TradingView here, we have a strong buy based off of 69 analysts. And that is a high of $306 and a low of $230. And whereas the current price, well, it's at $224. So there is upside in Amazon according to the analysts, which again, you can't really trust the analysts massively, but it's good to see because it embeds a bit of FOMO into the stock when you see analysts basically saying this sort of thing. Now, looking at the EMAs, we are already into a bullish position on the 50 crossing the 100, so that's ticked straight away, and we are now closing as of yesterday, well, the last trading day, which was yesterday, we are now closing above all of the EMAs. So this is now in a potential very bullish room to run. That didn't really make any sense, but I've said it now. We're seeing the stock close up towards being slightly overbought, so potentially Monday we could see this maybe sell off, but I think that'll be a broader market decision, not just an Amazon decision. So that is why I'm looking at Amazon right now. I'm going to be buying a bit more Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll decide at the time, looking at the broad market conditions, what happens over the next few days. Obviously will depict where this stock will go, which we will get onto. I know we will get onto the broader market. So that is Amazon. Amazon is projected to grow over the next year at 14.25%. And if we do look at Amazon over the last 3 or so years, we might have to click on a 5-year here. So if we go from 2023, this stock has actually climbed quite a bit. I didn't think it did. But if we go from 2021, this stock has only gone up approximately $70, $80. So it's something in which hasn't grown massively. It's gone up 39%. Obviously, all time, it's gone absolutely parabolic. But over the last 5 years, I think this company's starting to look relatively undervalued compared to its peers. It's at 34 PE, and obviously it has such a monopoly on everything, almost everything in which it does. So where are the markets currently? This is going to be a relatively quick section because I don't want to go on for too long. So we have just closed off into an all-time high in the US market, which is obviously a cause for concern for some people, but really bullish in general. However, as a momentum trader personally, I like to be in the neutral zone or greed. I don't really like to buy in fear. Fear is good for buying long term, but for me, I like to be cashing out on other people getting FOMO essentially. And Right now, there's not a lot of that, but next week could certainly open up into a more a FOMO environment rather than a fear environment. So if we look here, the market momentum is back into greed. It's well above the 125-day moving average. We're seeing fear in the stock price strength. We're seeing stock price breadth in extreme fear, put and call options in fear. Market volatility is in neutral with the VIX. I think last time I looked, it was at 17, which is good. A safe haven demand for bonds, for example, is at extreme fear, and junk bond is also at extreme fear. So currently it's fair to see why we are in 33 as a score, putting us in fear. I've said fear way too many times in the last 5 or so minutes, but it's something to watch going into next week, and that's why I've got a lot of money on the side at the moment, a lot of liquid cash, because I don't like to buy in uncertain times. And then obviously on Wednesday, we've got the Fed announcing what might potentially happen over the next year with interest rate cuts. There is projected to be 2, but I'm probably only expecting 1 by the end of the year. That's my own personal opinion. I think the Fed will overwhelmingly just think there's a lot of uncertainty still, and obviously we've got Trump going over to China at some point in the next week or two to discuss these tariffs, and obviously that is massively unsustainable. So where it will go, it's really hard to say. Obviously, long term, it looks massively bullish. It always does within the US market. That's not financial advice, by the way, but none of this has been. But short-term volatility could be high, and as a momentum trader, buying these stocks, because these stocks are climbing at such high rates, such fast amounts. I said that all completely wrong again. They're the first to get hit when things go wrong, essentially. So I hope you have enjoyed this video and found it somewhat useful. If you had, please do hit a like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. None of this has been financial advice. You should always do your own research before investing into a stock. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you for the next video.